But it was fun. I had a blast. I did more work. I was working on X-Men pages over John Romita Jr., inking Greg Capullo on Spawn, and drawing Prophet all simultaneously over there. And still, I found time to go out and party like an animal. And yeah, I don't know where that energy is now.
Well, do you think that volume of work, though, contributed in a good way or a bad way to who you are now? I mean, obviously, it's hard to separate it, but do you think you had to unlearn some of that?
Well, I was under the impression that if I was inking over some of these guys that are exceptionally talented, like a Mark Silvestri or Capullo, or these guys, that it would almost be teaching me how to draw, and it's not the case. I wasn't absorbing their skills like the absorbing man. Yeah. Like now I've learned, it's like, what's that, The Matrix? Now I've learned Kung Fu.
Yeah.
I wish it was that easy, but I really tricked myself into believing that a little bit. Like a lot of times, since I could draw a little bit, I would be asked to do finishes at Marvel quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And they'd put me over someone else, and I'd go, give it that X-Men look, office, and I'd go, and I'd look at somebody's, I was a young guy, and I was like, oh, well, I can do that. I'll fix this penciler's work, and I'll X-Men office it up, and I got to the point where I was like, oh, well, this is easy. I can pencil a book.
Yeah.
And you can't. I was like, wait a minute, this is a blank page here.
Yeah.
And all this stuff that I thought I was maybe tremendously helping out, maybe not so much. Yeah. Maybe realistically it wasn't,
Yeah. Well, your experience has to be kind of the opposite, right? Because he basically, like, people handed him professional work and said, finish it.
Oh yeah, I worked with Neil Adams. Yeah. I had Neil Adams showing me craziness daily.
But it's all from your own wellspring, right? Mm-hmm. Like how did you go about trying to actually reverse engineer it?
I had a mentor, George Pratt.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh.
George Pratt, my teacher.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
George Pratt's a pretty renowned painter and has done some comic stuff. And is it a Pratt School? Is that what it's called? They do like a course or something every year.
Illustration Academy?
Yeah. You teach at that sometimes?
Yeah, next week.
Is it difficult to try and articulate or try and give newcomers the parameters or the same tools?
Yeah. It's a little frustrating because I have trouble articulating how my thought process.
Have you ever physically slapped a student if they weren't doing it properly?
Non-violent, man.
Oh, all right. Well, sure.
No, but it's frustrating for sure. I mean, it's training.
Yeah, it's like an athlete who is you're not naturally, saying someone's naturally talented is reductive because you've clearly worked your ass off.
Yeah.
But through the process of it, you've discovered how to do it.
I think talent is the motivation to keep doing it. It's not like a thing that you just get. It's the will, I guess.
Yeah, just being just good enough to know, like, I could maybe do this better the next time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I learn a lot from it because I don't internalize even what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So when I explain it, I understand it better, and then I can see what I can do to be better or change things.
Seems like it would be a lot like learning a language.
Yeah, I've done it before. It's like
right, yeah, exactly.
I think the problem with some comics is it becomes like Jason's been talking a lot about language and visually speaking, illustratively it becomes a language. Like these feather lines represent these shadows or gradations from these shadows, but they become very hyper stylized, and when they do, it's like learning a language visually, and as a reader you start looking at these things and you know what they mean, but you might have a friend or a colleague and you show them the same thing and it might not resonate the same way, or they might not see it or exactly. interpret that language the same way. Like for instance, my dad was an artist and I was inking an issue of X-Men, and I was this big face of Longshot, and at the time there's all these hatch marks. I think I've told you this story before. There's all these hatch marks on the face that represent the planes and shadows of the cheekbone. And Jim Lee had a very precise way of rendering cheekbones, and there was these lines going this way, and then zigzag lines going that way. And I'm inking it in the style of Scott Williams. And my dad goes, why does this character have stitches all over his face? I mean, because that's the way he saw it, and the way I saw it was, this is exactly how this is supposed to be. But I'm kind of rambling, but
no, you're not rambling.
But illustratively, like for a guy like Neil, if he's putting a line down, that line might not necessarily be as pretty as someone else, like a Joe Sinnott line, but every line is there to represent shadow, form. They all have a function.
It is language.
It is.
Yeah.
And you just said it perfectly, like things can become sort of ancestral, like where people you only appreciate this art because it looks like this guy that you already know about, or this artist that you already know about, and people become closed off to the idea of like taking in a new thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like we know that these little lines, like you see here, like if I do enough of these, you're going, oh, that's water.
Right.
It's not really water.
It's not water at all.
Yeah. But to us, that's a great. I ruined this commission. He's going, what are those?
How important do you think the cognitive choice versus instincts? Do you plan a lot, or do you just?
No, improvise. I do a little, like a light pencil sketch, and then go from there. Or sometimes just straight ink.
You're really fearless with that brush, though.
Yeah. I try to be.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. It's
Yeah.
so definite, it's just ink, it just stays there.
You can tell someone who has like a formative arts education versus someone who didn't, because when they do comics, the people who have a formative art education seem to be a little like, I'll do better the next time. This page is good, but I'm not too precious.
Are you like that?
I'm so precious.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It comes off very loose
I haven't seen that
and.
in your work.
Yeah. So I work really hard for you to think that I'm not precious.
That's the trick.
That's good.
Now, as over time, I've gotten to be, I'm comfortable now.
Yeah.
So, I know that I'm not going to be my best every time, but that's why I'm fascinated by somebody like you, who's this like, I'm barely putting anything on this paper, and I'm going to turn it into a piece of art. That's got to be like a life philosophy of some sort.
I don't know, man. Just put it out there. Like, just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Right.
It's all a game anyway, right?
Now that it's your job, though, like now that it's like the thing that you wanted to do when you were a kid is now the thing that you do every day, how do you sustain it?
Well, I have a long way to go as far as like drawing. So like slots, every page for me was like super enjoyable, and I'm learning something, and I think the last issue is better than the first issue.
Yeah.
So it's constantly improving, and for me that's real exciting.
Yeah.
And I mean, it helps being on a book or doing a project that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Or like working on a character that maybe you can emotionally connect to. I think that's a big part of it. I like writing my own stuff. As a kid, I wanted to be like a Frank Miller, basically, or a Simonson, and write and draw my own stories. And it's taken a long, long time to get to a place where that's a possibility. And I've had one chance at it so far, and I'm just hoping I can continue that. I mean, I don't know how desperately my stories need to get out there in a real sense, but for me, I really enjoy storytelling visually. It sounds kind of comic book cliche to talk like that, but that's the terminology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
The challenge, just I always try to challenge myself. I'm never done learning about what I do. Just there's always a better hand I can draw.
Yeah.
There's always better inking.
Yeah. You have to stay curious about life, right?
Is that
But
more
even-
important for you, or is respect from your peers more important?
I mean,
What people
I'd
think
much-
you just want to tell the stories.
I would much rather the people that have read my comics enjoy my comics than the people who make this stuff think I'm great. You know, and it's like even the people that read it are not necessarily going to ever agree. Nobody agrees on anything.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's more important to me to communicate.
We
with
actually,
all.
as three of us, do agree on something. All shirts should be black.
Yeah. All black all the time.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you very much for coming out, and how about a round of applause for Dan and a round of applause for Vanessa.
Wait a minute, there's more applause for her.
I'm surprised no one booed you. If we were going to get really, you know, dogmatic about tools, then we should all be painting on cave walls with our hands because everything is a step forward, you know, like the kind of paper you use. Pens are an invention, computers are an invention. Eventually people will be painting in 3D or whatever, you know, like.
I've actually seen that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's insane. People, you can create entire little worlds and walk through your painting.
I would
Walk
paint a
into the
bunch of
other
damn
side.
Panosians and punch them all in the face.
Animate it with sounds, me screaming.